それだけは永遠に変わらないよ。
In Marius' car, Zinjiga Island is shrouded in gloom as continuous rain falls for days after the earthquake. Fortunately, the disaster relief work is going smoothly. Marius has contacted packs to deliver some supplies and convince the wealthy merchants who were invited to the island to make donations. As night falls, everything grows quiet. You and Marius are driving back from the temporary shelter in the lower district. He suddenly stops the car. You look up curiously, only to realize that Marius has pulled over to the roadside to let the convoy transporting supplies pass by. When you turn around, you meet his concerned eyes.
お姉さん、ずっと資料とにらめっこしてるみたいだけど、車酔いしないよう気をつけてね。それから、そろそろ息抜きに俺とおしゃべりしてもいいんじゃない？
At his reminder, you realize that you do feel a little dizzy, so you rub your eyes and put down your tablet. The rescue team has submitted new supplies requests. Remember to approve them when we get back to the hotel.
了解。向こうは今どんな感じだって？
The worst of the disaster is over, and most residents have been properly accommodated, though it will take some time to get everything rebuilt. The mercenaries you hired have rescued many victims and maintained security at the shelter. The rescue wouldn't have gone so smoothly without them.
報酬に見合った仕事はしてくれるさ。銭林の側近だっただけあって、実力は折り紙付きで、投資する価値は十分ある。
Now that everything is stable and the traffic between the island and the outside world has gone back to normal, things should slowly get better.
うん、俺の予想通りだ。お姉さんが手伝ってくれて助かったよ。
You didn't expect the conversation to suddenly turn back to you. Compared to the dire situation when you first found Marius after the earthquake, things have certainly improved a lot now. Since I can't contribute financially, I can only help out in whatever way I can. Alright, speaking of funds, Vincent said he has received several more transfers. Looks like those wealthy merchants you persuaded are really pulling their weight. Marius makes a sound in response, but his smile fades, and he seems to be thinking about something. His expression even turns a bit serious. What's wrong? Is there something amiss?
お姉さん、こういう言葉は聞いたことある？何か異変があるところには必ず裏があるって。今回寄付金を集めた時、今まであまり慈善事業に関わってこなかった連中が積極的に手を挙げたんだ。しかも驚くほど気前がいい。人の善意を疑うのは良くないって言うけど、どうも裏で企んでる気がするんだよね。
Why?
商人の本質は利益の追求だ。自分が損をする取引はしない。こっちが得した気分になってる時こそ要注意だよ。
You nod and start to really think about what he said. Marius glances at you and then quickly explains.
安心してね。俺みたいな善良な人だってちゃんといるから。
As you two are chatting and laughing, you start to feel relaxed, but suddenly deep purple lightning strikes across the sky, followed by a loud rumble of thunder. You find yourself looking out the window again. The dark night sky in the distance flashes with lightning, as if the storm is far from over. The supply convoy finally passes by, and your car, like a drifting little boat, drives into the rainy night. Hotel lobby. At 2 a.m., Marius and you enter the hotel, where you are greeted by exquisite and luxurious furnishings, a stark contrast to the shelter in the lower district. After all, this is the base of wealthy merchants, especially reinforced and even after the earthquake, is the first place to be restored. You are both stunned upon seeing the bustling lobby. The traffic between the island and the outside world has been restored, so they should be preparing to leave by now. Marius pulls you to a quiet corner and observes the guests in the lobby with narrowed eyes, like he's trying to spot something specific.
ここで見知った連中だけじゃない。知らない顔もいるな。
Newcomers? The island's already in such a mess. Why are they here? Those wealthy big shots, they are not exactly here to roll up their sleeves and help out, are they? You wouldn't buy that yourself.
グラスモルフェンについて話してるみたいだな。
So much has happened lately that the sudden mention of Chrysophenol feels distant and unfamiliar. You space out for a second and then remember why these wealthy merchants had all gathered here in the first place. They all came to the island at Mr. Jin's invitation to seek business cooperation regarding the healthy product known as Chrysophenol. Based on your previous investigation, Marius and you suspect that Chrysophenol, which claims to have anti-aging effects, might be related to the anthrax ingredients. Chrysophenol, Mr. Jin is already gone. How are they continuing this business? Could they be thinking of... Marius' answer is already quite obvious.
研究所が海底に沈んだ後、国際保安官が調査情報の一部を公開した。調査はまだ終わってないけど、海流の影響も考えると、研究所の中のものを全部回収するのは不可能。今のところ、サプリに関係するものは出てないし、海岸でもこれといった手がかりは見つかってない。
So, those people are speculating that Chrysophenol didn't sink to the sea with the research institute, but is probably still hidden somewhere on the island.
そう考えるのが妥当だろうってね。証拠がない以上、あくまで可能性でしかないんだけどさ。
Are they really going to take the gamble for such a slim possibility? Marius glances at the suited merchants in the lobby, each with their own schemes, and then looks at you with a complicated expression.
商売の本質は投機だからね。利益にはリスクがつきものだし、賭けに出る人間ってのは必ずいるんだよ。なんといっても、この取引は低リスクなんだ。最悪数日間が無駄足に終わるだけで、もしうまくいけば。権利者のいない今なら、最初に見つけた人が利益を独占できる。グラスモルフェンの販売権は、金のなる木なんだ。ここには業界の古狸みたいなのがたくさん招かれてるけど、こんなうまい話を断れる商人なんて、そうそういないと思うよ。
Just then, a server carrying drinks passes by. Marius gestures for them to stop and takes a glass of juice from the tray, handing it to you. In an instant, you two turn from disaster relief volunteers to bystanders in the business world. What should we do next? Do we just let them search for the Chrysophenol? If the side effects of the drug are what we suspect. Marius is about to speak, but he looks cautiously behind you. As if a hidden mechanism has been triggered, he becomes lazy and frivolous all of a sudden. You instantly understand. Marius has switched to his disguised identity. Yan Chunming, the rich brat, is online now. You play along with his ad, ready to greet the person who suddenly shows up.
よー、明戸社長、探したぞ。まったく、大物ってのは忙しいんだな。
This person is not a total stranger. He is a Zhenhao, a merchant from outside the island. In order to establish a partnership with Mr. Jin, He paid a hefty price to purchase someone else's invitation to enter the island and has always shown particular interest in Grusophenol.
また災害支援の仕事か？避難所の方に問題はないか？もし手伝いが必要なら遠慮なく言ってくれ。
Perhaps it's because you're so used to how playful he is, his sudden seriousness feels a bit strange.
ゴー兄さん、言いたいことがあるならはっきり言った方がいい。俺は回りくどいのには慣れてないんだ。
さすがは社長。話が早いな。それでは担当直入に言おう。例のグラスモルフェンについてだ。君の耳に何か入ってないか？
Zhenhao's bluntness is something you have expected.
あいにくこっちも仕事が山積みでさ。面倒ごとに首を突っ込んでる暇はないから、悪いけど他を当たってくれない？
いやいや、こんな時こそチャンスだろう。ぜひ社長と事業提携について話したくてね。
事業提携？
この状況だ。君も分かっているだろうが、誰がやっても儲かるじゃないか。せっかくだから手を組んで利益を山分けするのはどうだ？
山分けだって。
俺が6割、君が4割？いや違うな。社長が先に見つけたら君が7割、俺が3割でもいい？
Seeing that Marius doesn't respond, Zhenhao carefully glances around as if he is going to share some exclusive intel with you.
最近島の闇市場で新薬が出回っているようだ。誰かがグラスモルフェンのありかを突き止めたとしたら？
You feel a bit nervous upon hearing what he said. However, Marius remains composed as if he is not interested in it at all.
誰かが見つけた後で俺たちにできることってある？ゴー兄さんは闇市場まで行ったのか？まさか俺を待ってたとは言わないと思うけど。
言ったに決まっている。だがうさんくさい天使でろくな情報が手に入らなかった。この情報は社長への手土産だ。そっちも新しい情報が手に入ったら俺に教えてくれ。はは、この島では俺たちは右も左もわからないんだ。友達は多い方がいい。みんな同じものを狙っているんだからな。
まあそれもそうか。何か情報が入ったら連絡するよ。
Zhenhao nods and leaves with a sense of relief, seemingly believing in Marius' promise. You follow Marius to the floor-to-ceiling window, which is blocked by a decorative flower wall, so others can't directly see you two. Has Chrysophanol already entered the black market?
あいつの言ってることが本当かどうか、実際に言ってみないと何とも言えないな。
This seems like a complicated as a competition. What if they never find it? Will they stay here forever?
目の前に利益がぶら下がってるんだ。きっと死に物狂いで探し回るんじゃない？グラスモルフェンがシンジガ島で消失した以上、ここは渦の中心だ。どのみち真の平穏なんて永遠に訪れないだろうね。
If these drugs actually get into circulation through some sales channels, I can't imagine how many people will suffer from their unknown side effects.
じゃあ俺たちに残された道は一つだ。一番最初にグラスモルフェンを見つけて処分しよう。
With this choice, you two finally step into the fight and start competing with everyone else. And what lies before you is only a vague direction and an uncertain future. Then what should we do next?
貝原は信用できないけど、今のところ手がかりになりそうなのは闇市場だけだ。
Well, I guess that's the only way. But that same question you had before is back again.
どうしたの？ 何か気になることでもあった？
Marius quickly notices your thoughts and leans closer with concern to ask. I was thinking, according to the advertised facts, risophenol should also contain antivirus ingredients. Mr. Jin should really care about the antivirus ingredient, so how could he possibly use it on a such large scale in products meant for sale? You don't have many clues at hand, and some of them even contradict each other. Your efforts to think it through seem futile.
一旦、難しいことは置いておこうか。調査を進めていけば、おのずと答えが見えてくるはずだし。
Just as you're about to nod, you suddenly hear several voices approaching. You look in the direction of the voices and met unfamiliar gazes. Several merchants holding their wine glasses are walking towards you. Marius takes your hand and you two walk along the flower wall towards the elevator leading to the guest rooms. Where are we going?
ひとまず逃げる。バレちゃったみたいだし。これから詮索してくるやつが増えるだろうから。
Before you can even react, the elevator door has closed, shutting out all the noise of greed and desire in that luxurious hall. Harbor Long Street. The following midnight, you and Marius rent a small delivery car, using it as cover to check things out around the hidden market street. This is a part CBD. Those seemingly ordinary shops during the day could be hiding all kinds of secrets at night. If it weren't for the intel from the mercenaries, you might never have discovered the secrets hidden here. So, that lit up the restaurant is the heart of the hidden market street. You look at the small restaurant in confusion, and in fact, it is quite well decorated.
へえ、向こうもなかなか抜け目ないな。
What if someone actually comes in to dine?
普通に受け入れてるんじゃない？つまり事情を知らない人たちも隠れ蓑として利用されてる。
Looks like we need some special tricks to get into the restaurant's special business. I wonder if there's some sort of secret password to get in.
どうだろう。結局のところ、商売で大事なのはお金だから、向こうは無知で太っ腹なカモが来てほしいんじゃない？
Should we pose as clueless rich customers or just directly ask about the drugs? Looking at the intel in your hands, Marius and you both fall into silence.
ビジネスだって人と人のつながりが大事だからさ。相手を知らないことにはどう出るべきかは読めないね。
Well, when you represent PACs in business negotiations, what do you do when meeting potential partners for the first time?
知りたい？
Marius puts on a mysterious look and leans in close to your ear.
じゃあ特別に俺のとっておきの方法をお姉さんに教えてあげる。時と場合によって使い分ける臨機応変だよ。
He winks playfully, but you know the real game in business is always more complicated. I guess gathering intel in the hidden market street isn't too different from business negotiations. Since you're such an expert, I'm counting on you. Marius pauses for a moment and then smiles with his eyes squinted. Your joke really helps him relax a lot.
まずは俺たちにふさわしいキャラ作りをしないとね。
New identities? You look at Marius in confusion. After thinking for a while, he smiles clearly pleased.
お姉さんには俺の秘書を演じてもらおうかな。
You give it a quick thought. This role doesn't sound too complicated. It's not difficult at all, and it makes perfect sense.
うん、お姉さんの想像とはちょっと違うかもしれないけど。とにかくまずは作戦を2つ立てておこう。 万が一俺がしくじったら、
Listening to his plan, you can't seem to spot any flaws, but you feel something is off. Things seem to be taking a strange turn despite appearing logical. Hidden Market Street Tea Restaurant. After finalizing the plan, Marius and you get out of the car and walk toward the lit-up tea restaurant in the night. A threshold is built at the entrance of the restaurant, and you wonder what it means. Putting your arm around Marius, you carefully step over it. The next moment, the electronic doorbell suddenly blares out, "Welcome." It appears eerie in the quiet night, so you instinctively tighten your grip.
安心して。俺がついてるから。
You nod and mentally rehearse your plan. You pretend to lean intimately against Marius while continuing to follow him into the restaurant. Someone is standing behind the cashier. You can't tell if he is the server or the owner. Marius makes eye contact with him while you begin to observe the surroundings quietly. Two people dressed as servers are leaning against a wall, appearing lazy yet keeping their eyes fixed on you two. There are two tables of customers on either side, but you and Marius have been watching from outside for 2 hours and no one has gone in. So the customers and servers are likely in disguise. There are 10 of them, possibly all enforcers here.
いらっしゃいませ。2名様ですか？ご注文はお決まりで。
Just as you are writing the number of people on Marius' palm, someone else comes out from the kitchen. He waves his hand and the person behind the cashier steps aside. He must be the owner of the restaurant. Marius figures out the identity of him right away. He leans forward against the cashier, deliberately closing the distance between them.
いいものが欲しいなって思ってね。
That's a subtle hint just to see what happens. The other party pauses for a moment, raises his head, and carefully looks at you and Marius.
何分小さな店なので、これといって珍しい料理はありませんが。
He doesn't respond directly, but Marius remains calm, his fingers gently tapping on the cashier.
ここは俺の友人が特別に勧めてくれた店なんだ。ここなら期待を裏切らないと思ってるよ。
ほう、そのご友人というのは常連様で。お名前をお伺いしてもよろしいでしょうか。どなたかわかるかもしれません。
The restaurant owner acts like it's nothing, but he hints for you to mention the identity of this friend, as if trying to verify something.
何？常連だけ特別扱いで一元さんはお断りってこと？
とんでもない。お越しくださったお客様は全員神様です。ですが、そのお方からおすすめの一品について何か伺ってませんか？
You pretend to look at the menu while your heart is pounding. This owner is indeed cunning, and every word out of his mouth feels like a trap. Could his so-called special dishes also be some kind of secret password?
わざわざこちらへ足をお運びくださったからには知らないとは言いませんよね。
The owner keeps asking questions, and you can't answer any. Now he's in control. Do you take a risk or go for it, or should you back off? You don't know the right answer, but you trust Marius' choice.
だる。こんなくだらないやりとりをするために金を持ってきたんじゃないんだけどな。
Marius appears more relaxed as he rests his hands on the cashier, tilting his head while looking at the person standing behind it.
ビジネスだろ？お互い分かってるならそれでいいじゃないか。ここまで来て面倒なことをする必要があるか？
何のことをおっしゃっているのか私には分かりかねますが。
銭林のやつがここに何か置いてったのは知ってるんだよ。
Marius interrupts the owner, taking back control of the talk.
俺は買いたい。お前は売りたい。 だったら手っ取り早く一緒に大儲けした方がいいと思わないか？ビジネスパートナーとして協力してくれるなら最高の売り手になるって約束するよ。
The owner falls silent for a moment and then looks at Marius and laughs.
面白いお方ですな。物事をよく分かっていらっしゃるようで。であれば、あれがどれほど人気かお分かりでしょう。提携されるつもりなら、まずは誠意を見せていただかないと。
つまり銭林の商品は全部ここにあるのか？
You pretend to fiddle with your handbag while holding your breath, waiting for the crucial information.
ご心配には及びません。すべての卵を一つのカゴに入れるような真似はしませんので。
つまり複数の取引先と交渉して保険をかけてるわけか。いくら出せばどれだけこっちによこせる？それくらいは答えてくれよ。
できませんね。取引にはこちらのルールに合わせていただかないと。最初に手付金を支払いいただき、納品は追ってご連絡いたします。
自分だけ美味しい思いをしようってことか。
信頼に値しないと思うなら、提携の話はなかったことに。欲しがっているのはあなただけではありませんから。
The owner is even more cunning than you expected. Either don't cooperate or pay first. No other options for you. But the information you have is still too limited. You don't even know if the owner actually has grisophenol. Looks like it's time for you to play your role. You hold onto Marius' hand and lean against him, acting all cute. What are you guys talking about? I can't understand a thing. What's so good that you absolutely have to buy it? Why not buy me a handbag instead? Marius quickly understands you. He turns to look at you, ready for the next act together.
そうせかさないでよ。大事な取引なんだって。大金が手に入れば欲しいものなんかいくらでも買ってあげるからさ。
Money? I almost lost my life. We're almost dead. This island is cursed. We even had an earthquake. You pretend to be annoyed, give Marius a push, and then turn to see the owner. He is definitely enjoying the show. Just for those pills, they're in a cheap plastic bottle and don't look like anything fancy. How much could they possibly be worth? As you speak, you secretly observe the owner. His expression remains unchanged. That's the biggest flaw. Along with the invitation, Visagin sent a promotional video introducing Grisophenol. In the video, the Grisophenol is a transparent liquid 10 mm per dose stored in light blue glass bottles under refrigeration. So all that talk about pills and plastic bottles is false information, yet the owner doesn't blink at the obvious mistakes you made. He may have never seen Grisophenol at all and doesn't actually have the goods that Mr. Jin left behind.
もうすねないで。そんな態度取られたら困っちゃうよ。もう話はついたってことでいいよな。あのさ、車の中にあるカバンを持ってきて。現金が入ったやつ。それでもう帰れるからさ。
This is your agreed upon escape plan with Marius. To retreat separately. Apparently, he's also noticed something is wrong. You nod, pick up your handbag, and walk toward the door. After you get in the car, you'll call Marius with the excuse of not finding something to make him leave. Just then, a phone suddenly rings out in the restaurant. It's from an old cell phone behind the cashier. You have a bad feeling about this, but you don't dare to hurry because Marius is still behind you. The owner keeps his voice low and says just a few words, then slams down the phone.
早くあの女を止めろ！
逃げろ！
In an instant, two servers from the corridor rush towards you. You forcefully push one away, but the other grabs your wrist. You try hard but still can't escape his grip, when suddenly Marius, who had been by the cashier just moments ago, appears right in front of you. Without saying anything or even looking at you, he grabs the server who is gripping your wrist and throws a powerful punch.
触るな
It's the first time you've heard Marius speak in such a tone. You instinctively grab his clothes as he raises his arm to shield you. That server, knocked down by Marius' punch, becomes mad, grabs a beer bottle from a nearby table and throws it at Marius. Yes. The sound of shattering glass pierces your nerves as you watch helplessly, seeing Marius' blood splatter along with the flying shards. Someone flips a switch and several lights in the restaurant immediately go out, leaving the room in dimness. The two tables of diners stand up and walk over to surround you. Marius stumbles backward and falls into your arms. You quickly support him. He seems to be dazed for a moment, but he quickly stands up again and positions himself in front of you, shielding you as you both back up to the corner of the restaurant. You can't see his expression. All you can see is blood droplets falling down his cheeks, splattering one by one as they hit the ground. Marius!
何お姉さん。安心して。俺がついてるから。
He repeats what he said when he came in, but this time it doesn't sound reassuring. The server who had hit Marius with a beer bottle tries to charge over again, but is held back by the owner, stepping aside with a furious glare.
こんなおもてなしを受けるのは生まれて初めてだ。
私の記憶が正しければ、先に手を出してきたのはそちらのはずですが。
大切な人だから焦っちゃってさ。分かってもらえる？
Marius has regained his composure with a playful amusement in his voice.
少し引き止めただけで、あれほど必死に逃げようとするとは。最初から取引する気などなかったんでしょう。このことを知られてしまった以上、噂を広められでもしたら商売上がったりですからね。私も血も涙もない人間ではないので、数日間こちらでお客様として過ごしていただき、ことが済んだらお帰りになれますよ。
話し合いで解決しよう。みんな金が目的なら交渉の余地はあるだろう。偽の情報を流してつってもそのうちバレるだけだ。手を組まない？グラスモルフェンのありかを突き止めれば金には困らないと思うけど。
手を組む？よそ者となんてまっぴらごめんだね。
In response to Marius' proposal for cooperation, the owner becomes increasingly agitated and angry.
この島がこんなことになったのも誰のせいだと。
そうか。じゃあ安全さえ保証してくれるならそっちの言うことは何でも聞くよ。それならどうだ？
You freeze briefly, but you catch a glimpse of the flickering lights outside the door through the crowd, immediately understanding his plan. At this moment, everyone in the restaurant is facing you with their backs to the door, which means only Marius and you can see what is going on outside. Did he choose to retreat to this corner to attract everyone's attention?
その前に情報共有といこう。他言無用のここだけの話。俺からの誠意だ。
The owner squints his eyes as he sizes up Marius. He doesn't seem to trust you, but the exclusive intel is just too tempting to pass up.
最後のチャンスですからね。さっさと話せ。
おっと、時間切れだ。
The next moment, a bright light shines on your eyes. Marius quickly turns around and pulls you into his arms. You clench your fists, listening to the chaotic sounds of arguing, fighting, wailing, and tables and chairs crashing to the ground. Your heart is pounding, but you are still worried about Marius. You reach out your hand with all your might, calling out his name amidst the chaos. It is Marius, his breath and heartbeat so near, that finally brings you comfort. He strokes your hair, whispering tenderly by your ear.
お姉さん、もう大丈夫だよ。俺がそばにいるから。すぐ終わるから、俺の声だけを聞いていて。
Hidden Market Street Tea Restaurant. A few minutes later, everything is finally over. You stand beside Marius watching as the mercenaries who rush in subdue everyone in the restaurant. Before entering this restaurant, Marius has already got mercenaries hiding nearby just to be on the safe side. But the situation was so urgent that you almost forgot about it. Thankfully, Marius kept his cool and managed to buy some time. Seeing Marius injured, the mercenaries bring a medical kit. You spray medical alcohol on the gauze and carefully treated Marius' wounds.
いったったって。お姉さん、怪我人なんだからもう少し優しくして。
You look at the wound on Marius' forehead, unable to tell how deep it is through the bleeding. Hearing him cry out in pain makes you hesitate to touch it. I'm sorry, should we go to the hospital instead? Upon hearing your apology, Marius' expression changes. He quickly grabs your hand before you can pull it back.
冗談だって。平気平気。こんなのかすり傷だからさ。
You look at him hesitantly, ultimately surrendering to his overly sincere gaze. After treating Mary's wounds, you two walk over to the restaurant owner who is pinned to the ground.
一旦手を離してやってくれ。そのままだとまともに話もできないだろう。
The two burly mercenaries loosen their grip, and the restaurant owner immediately straightens up, crawling a few steps in your direction.
社長様、社長様、これは何かの間違いです。皆生活のために働いているんです。どうか。
さっきのは誰からの電話だ？
He asked the question you were thinking of. Your plan was going smoothly until that phone call suddenly changed everything. Someone must have known about your movements and intentions. Perhaps they were even watching the restaurant just now, which is why they could inform others so promptly.
私も詳しくは知りません。一度訪ねてきた時はサングラスにマスクで顔を隠していて、例の薬のことを尋ねてきました。
金を騙し取る計画もそいつの指示か？
いえ、それは違います。その方が情報収集のために気前よく金を使うのを見て、これは儲かりそうだと思い。
Marius falls silent for a moment and turns to look at you with a somewhat helpless expression. Looks like we've hit a dead end here.
そうみたいだ。間違いだったってことが分かったけど、後のことは人に任せるとして、とりあえずホテルに戻ろうか。
You follow Marius out of the restaurant. The restaurant owner tries to escape but is immediately pinned down by the mercenaries. As you both step over the threshold, the chaos and danger from moments ago are left behind. In the tranquil night, you look up and see the sky adorned with countless stars. Marius' hotel suite. After closing the door, only you and Marius are in the brightly lit room. At last, you are back in the familiar world. Marius walks to the TV, adjusting his bangs in front of the LCD screen, and you worriedly peer over. What's wrong? Does your wound still hurt?
いや、紙で隠しとこうと思ってさ。他の人に見られたら目立っちゃうじゃない？お姉さんは心配しなくていいの。ね、新しい髪型、かっこいいでしょ？
Marius walks over to you with a smile. It is past midnight and he looks weary too.
あの店主の話だと、 例の新薬の噂が広まる前からグラスモルフェンを探す奴がいたことになるね。行動を起こすのも俺たちより早いし、先を越されてたわけだ。このままだと時間がない。
When Mr. Jin was here, those merchants were still cautious about cooperation opportunities, but now it's turned into a complete chaos. But I don't quite understand. How can a health product that's never even hit the market have such a huge profit margin?
心をつかむものがあればお客様は食いつくよ。永遠の若さなんてのは国や時代を超えて人を虜にしてきたんだから。俺も時々思うよ。もし人類の科学技術で副作用のない不老の薬が作れたらって。
Marius turns to look at the dim, hazy night outside the window, then smiles at you.
そんな薬が本当にあったら、お姉さんは試してみる？
You didn't expect him to throw the question at you, even though you know it's just a hypothetical scenario, you still think it seriously. I feel like there are pros and cons no matter which choice I make. However, it reminds me of a romantic interpretation of aging that I once read in an essay collection.
ロマンチックな解釈？面白そう。なんて書いてあったの？
The author believes that aging might be time's way of showing mercy to people. How heart-wrenching it would be to bid farewell to the world and your loved ones in the prime of your youth and beauty. So, in my opinion, while eternal youth does sound wonderful, being able to accept natural aging is also a form of making peace with life. But I'm just thinking out loud here. Maybe when the time actually comes, I'll naturally find my own answer.
まさか、そんな答えが返ってくるなんてね。
What about you? What would you do?
あんたの答えが俺の答えだよ。若くても年を重ねても、お姉さんはお姉さんだから。
Marius' answer comes without hesitation, as natural to him as saying the sun rises in the east.
それだけは永遠に変わらないよ。
His tone is sincere and certain, like a simple answer yet also a gentle promise. Perhaps his gaze is too intense. In that instant of eye contact, you subconsciously look away. Feeling complicated, you hurriedly stand up and head to the fridge to get a cold drink to cool down your mind. Alright, we should focus on planning our next steps.
ここは人の管轄してる土地だから、ファックスから使える資源も限られてる。この島はそれほど広くないけど、隠された薬品を見つけようと思うと、大海から真水を探すみたいだ。
Just as you're thinking about where to start, your hand is chilled by a can in the fridge. The fridge for storage?
え？
You are surprised by the sudden thought. You quickly run back to Marius. Do you remember that introduction video about the drug? It specifically mentioned that glucophonol has some special stuff in it and needs to be kept in the fridge.
もちろん覚えてるよ。動画に映ってた保管庫はかなりの規模で、数百平方メートルくらいの冷蔵室が必要だった。
While buildings of this size are uncommon, they would consume significantly more power than regular commercial and residential buildings. If we start by looking at power consumption, we might be able to filter out locations that match our criteria. Barrow smiles confidently as he swipes his tablet to call.
今すぐ藤崎に島の電力会社と連絡を取らせる。
As the investigation into the drugs finally continues, you sit down contentedly on the sofa and pull the tablet of the peach soda you only just take a sip, and then Marius takes it from you. Before you can even protest, he puts on a pitiful expression.
ああ、俺が先に思いついてたら、お姉さんにいっぱい褒めてもらえたのに。
He takes several gulps of the drink and then collapses on the sofa, his body slowly sliding towards you. You don't dodge, allowing Marius to rest on your shoulder. He seems to fall asleep quickly, his breathing light and steady. You also gradually begin to feel drowsy. However, this tranquility doesn't last long. Marius is awakened by Vincent's call.
ああ、わかった。こっちに送ってくれ。
After hanging up the phone, Marius lets out a long yawn, then gives his head a good shake to clear his mind.
場所がわかったよ。お姉さん、一緒に行ってみない？俺と深夜のドライブに。
Marius describes the midnight investigation as an interesting invitation. You follow him out of the door. Lakeside ruins. You and Marius look around the desolate lakeshore amid the deafening chorus of insects. You thought you'd find something, but end up just looking at each other in disappointment. This place, forget about finding a building with proper electrical connections. There isn't even a building.
電力会社から提示された条件に合う場所は6つ。時間がもったいないし、残りの5つの場所は傭兵に当たらせてるから、ひとまず落ち着いて藤崎に連絡を取ってから考えよ
う。1 in 6. While it is never going to be 100% possibility to begin with, this one is clearly way off the mark. Marius ends the call quickly and seems to frown even more.
ここ以外は全部架空の住所だったみたい。
How can that be?
誰かが前もって電力会社と接触して社員を買収したか、データを改ざんしたんだろうな。でも、この住所は適当すぎる。時間稼ぎが目的なら、もっとちゃんとした建物を選んだ方がいいし。向こうも相当焦ってるんだろうね。準備する時間もなかったのかな。
Whether it's the hidden market street or the power company, someone's always one step ahead of us. You're not far behind, but it's too much of a coincidence that you're always just like a little too late.
それが一番気がかりだよね。俺たちの行動が相手に筒抜けみたいで。
Marius mumbles to himself, then suddenly remembers something and makes another phone call.
藤崎、今すぐ俺の部屋に行って盗聴器が仕掛けられてないか確認してほしい。ああ、ホテルのスタッフに変装してルームサービスのふりをしてくれ。怪しまれると面倒だ。
You and Marius wait in silence, but the answer seems obvious. Vincent acts quickly, and soon Marius' phone rings again. Marius listens to Vincent's report and responds from time to time, his expression growing gloomy.
わかった。現場の後片付けは任せる。詳しいことはまた後で。
So, we were being wired-taped?
テレビの裏に小型の盗聴器が仕掛けられてた。逆探知プログラムも組み込まれてたから、向こうは俺たちが気づいたって分かったはず。
Marius looked somewhat frustrated as he lowered his head in silence, seemingly reflected on what had gone wrong this time.
油断した。島に着いてから毎日藤崎に部屋を確認させてたけど、地震が起きるまで特に何もなかったからさ。この数日は救助活動で手一杯で、藤崎もホテルにほとんどいなかったし、気が回らなかった。
The person who installed the bulb must have heard our discussion just now, hurriedly contacted the power company and left us these fake addresses.
だからこそ、こんな適当な住所しか用意できなかったんだろうな。一足遅かったか。この勝負、俺たちの負けだよ。
Seeing Marius looking unusually dejected and tired, you try to lead him to think in a positive direction. But this trip wasn't completely fruitless, was it? Marius seems to get what you're thinking and plays along by looking all expectant.
お姉さんには何か気づいたことがあるの？
If he can monitor our movements and enter our hotel rooms, it means that person is likely also staying at the hotel and right next to us.
ホテルにはたくさん人がいるけど、闇市場の情報を掴んでいて、グラスモルフェンに執着しているやつといえば。
Marius pauses for a moment as if hinting at you to say the answer together. Then how?
今のところ一番怪しいのはあいつだ。でも決定的な証拠はない。ひとまず藤崎に身辺調査をさせてみるよ。大丈夫。向こうが先に薬品を見つけたとしても、短時間で全部運び出すのは無理だろうから。島から持ち出すにしても、その場で売りさばくとしても、何かしらの形跡は残る。まだ間に合うよ。
It seems Marius has already bounced back from that disappointment and is diving right into the next plan.
そうだ。薬品の冷蔵保管のことで思いついたことがあって。
Huh?
島の被害状況を調べるために、パックスから新型ドローンを数台取り寄せていたんだけど、これが熱感知センサーが搭載されてて、100メートル以内の環境温度を正確に計測できるんだ。今の状況にぴったりだと思わない？ちょっと時間はかかっちゃうけど、やってみる価値はあるよね。何か発見があるかも。
This is the Marius you know best. He never gives up and never runs out of option. Now it's our turn to give chase. Hotel restaurant. After all that running around, Marius and you are getting hungry, so you two head straight to the 24-hour VIP restaurant after returning to the hotel. The restaurant is unexpectedly bustling at this late hour with more than a dozen people standing around in small groups. From a distance, you watch them exchanging drinks and toasts and figure it must be a business dinner party. Don't these people ever sleep?
昼間は人目が多いから、あえてこの時間を選んでるんじゃない？気にしなくていいよ、お姉さん。まずは食事を楽しもう。
You follow Marius to the dining area, but before you sit down, a familiar face comes over to greet you. It is none other than Zhenhao.
おお、秋戸社長。今お戻りかい？今日は忙しかったのか？
Marius pretends not to notice the probing in his voice and smiles casually.
別に眠れなくて散歩してただけだ。ここのパーティーほど面白くもなんともないよ。
だったら社長も参加するか？俺が出発するって言ったら最後に一杯付き合えってみんなうるさくてさ。もともと君も誘うつもりだったが、フロントに繋いだら部屋にいないと聞いて。別れの挨拶ができないかもと思っていたから会えてよかったよ。
島を離れるのか？
そうだ。グラスモルフェンの行方はわからない以上、ここにいても意味がない。俺は金運の星から見放されたのかもしれないな。だがまあ、無駄足ではなかった。君とも知り合えたし、友人もたくさんできた。そうだ、昨晩、島の支援施設の募金口座に金を振り込んでおいたんだ。この島へのせめてもの恩返しに。
Marius and you look at Zhenhao, wondering what goal he is truly after. Zhenhao seems to see through your confusion and doesn't say anything more, simply handing the champagne prepared earlier to Marius. Then he lowers his champagne glass, trying to clink with Marius, all humble and friendly. Marius has no reason to refuse. After they clink glasses, Marius takes only a sip while Zhenhao drinks it all in one gulp.
また近いうちに会えることを願っているよ。友人としてな。
Zhenhao smiles and then turns and leaves after saying goodbye.
今のどう思った？
You quickly recall what happened after meeting Zhenhao, and your intuition tells you that Marius shares the same opinion. Very suspicious. He cared so much about the health product business before, doing everything he could to get close messaging. But now he's giving up too suddenly. Could he have already moved the drugs out of Zinjaga Island? Is that why he's preparing to leave? Marius watches as Zhenhao walks away and then pours a glass of lemonade and gently hands it to you.
パックスの従業員が当該への経路を抑えてる。大量の物資が運ばれれば、俺のところに必ず情報が入るよ。
If Zhenhao is the one eavesdropping on us, he must already know about our connection with Pax. Maybe he realized his chances of winning were slim, so he decided not to waste any more time. No matter what Zhenhao is after, his sudden withdrawal still catches you off guard. He is the most likely suspect you've caught, but he leaves before you can find any crucial evidence.
港の関係者には監視を依頼しておく。あいつが何をしようと、俺の目はごまかせないよ。
Before Marius can finish speaking, a few people holding wine glasses approach you like a dark cloud.
はあ、夜食くらい。誰の邪魔も入らずに食べたいんだけどな。せっかくだし、ついでに情報収集でもしよっと。お姉さんはここでメニュー見て待ってて。好きなものを頼んでいいからね。
Marius picks up his wine glass and moves toward them, effectively blocking out the fake pleasantries. Tonight's investigation has been complex and dangerous. You feel too exhausted to deal with situations like this anymore. In fact, Marius needs more rest than you, but he still chooses to stand in front of you. When the first appetizer is served, Marius finally returns to sit across from you. He picks up the order receipt with a delighted expression.
わあ、俺の好きなものばっかり。
I see these are all dishes you frequently order.
お姉さん、こんなに俺のこと分かってくれてるなんて。はあ、
Before he can finish speaking, Marius can't help but yawn, but he still looks at you with his eyes blinking. Alright, what did you find out from talking to them?
大した情報は持ってなかった。貝原とは表面的な付き合いしかないから、詳しいことは知らないみたい。少し探りを入れてみたけど、あいつらは俺とパックスとの関係にも気づいてない。あとは、聞いてるだけでうんざりするようなくだらない話だけ。
You can't help but smile at Marius acting like a child, all irritated and throwing a little tantrum.
最近あんたと一緒にいて楽しすぎたから、無理やり仕事モードに切り替えるのがしんどくてさ。
Oh, sounds like you're blaming me. Marius puts an appetizer on your plate and then rests his chin on his hand and smiles with narrowed eyes.
そんなことないって。でも、お姉さんがそう言ってくれるなら、遠慮なく。
When did I?
だから、これからはもっと俺の近くにいてね。
Your heart beats in rhythm with the flickering candlelight on the table. Marius watches you from behind its warm glow, and you find yourself unable to say no. He doesn't keep asking for an answer. It's as if you both get it without saying anything. In your fatigue, you suddenly feel this, thinking how this night spent with Marius feels so short, yet so long. Seaside Warehouse. 2 days later, Pax's engineers who flew the drones to check out the island send a message saying they figured out where the drugs are most likely being kept. Suspected of cutting-edge detection technology, it can not only determine the temperature of different indoor areas, but also construct a spatial layout of the buildings on the ground. You and Marius rush to this inconspicuous warehouse by the seaside, hiding behind the unguarded outer wall to observe the situation.
間違いない。この倉庫だね。条件に合う部屋は建物の中心部か地下か。サーモグラフィーだけじゃ具体的な場所まではわからないけど。
The situation on site is complex, but fortunately, during the drone detection, you've developed different countermeasures for possible scenarios. Suspected, looks like we'll have to start by hacking into the surveillance system. The drug storage room is like the vaults of the entire warehouse, so it must be under strict 24-hour surveillance. Although you don't know where the right room is, but by using the camera to figure out where the surveillance room is, you can see everything that's going on inside. Since there's security patrol, it means someone has already taken control of this area. We need to be extra careful.
大丈夫。戦闘力なら銭林が残した傭兵の右に出る者はいないよ。
Let's check out the situation first, and then arrange for the mercenaries to surround and get in. Before Marius can reply, there is a beep and the warehouse door suddenly opens. A delivery truck drives out of the industrial park. The driver sees something with a security guard at the entrance and drives toward the seaside highway.
もしかして車の中にグラスモルフェンがもう買い手を見つけて運び出してるのか？
That quickly? After thinking for just a few seconds, Marius turns on his communication earpiece to make a call.
A チーム、あの車を追跡して受け渡し場所を確認して、バレたらその場で向こうの車を停車させて俺に連絡が欲しい。
After hanging up the call, Marius' expression becomes serious.
薬が流出してるとなると、俺たちはもっと警戒しないと。
While you're considering which plan works best for this sudden situation, Marius' communication earpiece receives another incoming call. Judging from Marius' tone, the call probably doesn't come from the mercenaries. Marius understands your confusion and anxiety and turns to you immediately after ending the call.
藤崎だよ。衛星写真でホテルから車が何台かここに向かってるのが分かったって。他の連中もここを突き止めたみたいだ。
Looks like we'll have to adjust our plan now. You've thought about both possibilities, but never expected them to happen simultaneously.
もし傭兵を使って強行突破しようものなら、現場に大きな被害を生む可能性が高い。相手が悪あがきをして証拠隠滅を図ったら、後処理がもっと複雑になる。調査も難航するだろうね。
If we let all our manpower to break through but get surrounded by outsiders halfway, we'll be caught in a pincer attack, which would be too risky. Compared to just busting in, sneaking in is way less risky. We can leave the mercenaries outside the warehouse to handle any emergencies and provide backup when needed. Marius understands what you're trying to say. He nods, but his expression is a little hesitant.
そう考えると、倉庫に潜り込むのは俺たち二人が適任ってことかな。
He sounds like he's seeking your confirmation, and while you understand his concerns, you still nod firmly. This is the final step to uncover the truth. You have no other way out. You're just grateful that Marius is still by your side. Let's follow our plan and hack in their internal network to disrupt the surveillance footage. Let the mercenaries stand by around the warehouse. If we fail to sneak in, we'll call them in for backup. Marius nods. You arrive at the outer wall's corner plant, and the camera there is picked up earlier as a target to hack. Staying within the blind spot, you approach the camera and insert the prepared data chip into the interface. The chip contains a hacking program that will take control of the surveillance system, putting all surveillance footage on pause. After completing the preparations, you finally start sneaking into the warehouse.
次は傭兵を呼んで指定の場所に遠隔操作の爆弾を仕掛けてもらおう。何かあった時のために。
Marius holds you close as you two hide behind a container. He first peeks out to check the movements of the security guards in the distance, and then turns on his communication earpiece.
残りの4チームに連絡。爆弾を仕掛けてほしい。設置場所はマップにアップロード済みだから速やかに配置についてくれ。
Compared to the voice so close by, his command in the earpiece is slightly delayed and has a unique magnetic resonance. You hear rustling footsteps as the mercenaries are moving toward their target spots following Marius' command. Marius remains composed, casually staring at the architectural map and signal markers of each squad on the electronic screen.
B チームと C チーム行動開始。 D チームの近くは警備の巡回エリアだから見つからないように用心してくれ。 E チームの目標エリアは外壁じゃない内壁の配電盤だ。目標は小さいし地図上の位置から多少ズレがある。
Marius commands with such composure as if everything is under his control. At this moment, the way he looks and sounds suddenly makes him familiar to you. This is exactly how he carries himself when navigating the business world as the CEO of PAX, negotiating with various forces, calm, decisive, and methodically executing the strategies. He is completely different from the person who likes to joke and act cute when he's alone with you.
完了次第報告してくれ。
After receiving the reply from each squad, Marius marks their positions one by one on his phone and connects the remote detonators for the bombs.
よし。あとは各自で身を隠して待機。俺は監視室に潜入するから。爆弾の起爆を確認次第 B、C チームは突入してくれ。突入順序と方向は計画通りに。緊急支援要請がない場合 E チームはその場で待機してその後の指示を待つこと。それじゃみんな頼んだ。この仕事が片付いたら報酬は2倍に弾むよ。
Marius ends the call decisively with a show of his financial prowess.
さてと俺たちの出番だね。
No problem, I'm all ready. Marius smiles face as he points to a lone security guard in a distant corner. Based on the previous investigation, you must get the security guard's access card to enter the warehouse. To make it, either Marius or you needs to act as bait to distract him, while the other attacks from behind with a stun gun. You think the timing of using the stun gun is more crucial, so you're getting ready to volunteer to be the bait. Marius takes your hand and places the stun gun in your palm.
俺に任せて。
You know he's concerned about your safety. After all, being a bait could face unpredictable dangers. Mine. Marius smiles and leans closer to you, staring straight into your eyes.
俺はヒーローだけど、たまにはお姉さんに助けられるのも悪くないかな。
You reluctantly agree to his plan, gripping the stun gun tightly with both hands while waiting for the right moment to strike. After looking around for a while, Marius crouches and moves near the security guard, fiddling with the knob on the container, creating a metallic clicking sounds. The security guard immediately notices and walks around the container toward Marius, while you carefully circle behind the security guard. A faint electrical buzz fills the air. Seeing that the security guard is no longer able to resist, you hurriedly let go. Are you okay? Quick, look for his access card. Marius nods and bends down to search through the security guard's various pockets. Soon after, he lifts his head and waves the card in his hand. You two run to the warehouse entrance and place the access card against the sensor area. With a beep, the entire workshop is exposed before you. The answers you seek are hidden here. All the questions and disputes are about to end at this point. Warehouse workshop. The situation inside the workshop is exactly as you've investigated, completely unguarded. It seems that the warehouse owner has some secrets he wants to keep hidden. Marius and you cautiously look around while heading to the surveillance room according to the marked location on the map.
ここだ。
You two stop in front of the surveillance room door. With a wave of your hand, the password lock lights up automatically. An 8-digit password, plus facial recognition and iris scanning.
データチップで強制解除するしかないな。
The lock's encryption is so complex that the cracking program takes 15 minutes to load, longer than you thought. Marius and you lean against the wall outside the surveillance room, each watching a different direction, waiting for the password to be cracked.
お姉さん、この倉庫なんか変だと思わない？
How so?
グラスモルフェンの製造工程はかなり複雑なのに、ここには生産された形跡が一切ない。
Maybe they produce them elsewhere and then transport the finished products here.
そんなことしたらリスクとコストが跳ね上がるし、まどろっこしい手段を取る意味がわからないんだよね。
As you ponder over Mary's question, a commotion comes from outside the workshop. What happened? Marius frowns, listening carefully to the commotion outside.
近くを巡回してた別の警備員がさっき気絶させたやつを見つけたみたいだ。
Just after he finishes speaking, the workshop door suddenly opens. You hear heavy, jumbled footsteps at the entrance. Probably 3 or 4 people are coming. Marius reacts swiftly. He wraps his arms around you and hides behind the electrical box outside the surveillance room, which happens to be in a blind spot. But security guards have already noticed the intrusion and will definitely search this area thoroughly. It's only a matter of time before they find you. Cornered against the wall by Marius, you look at him anxiously but can't make a sound. Marius looks at you, lowers his hand and holds your hand. His fingertip writes something on your palm, trying to convey his message.
爆弾を起爆しよう。
At this point, this is the only option. That's why you set up the remote control bomb as your backup plan. Once the explosion starts, your sneak-in operation will officially fail, and you must race against time to find the drug storage room. Imagining the worst possible outcome, you're overwhelmed by worries. Marius notices your tension and moves closer to you in this narrow hiding space. He's so close, his breath warm against your ear, both comforting and laced with a smile. Your fear melts away, swept aside by the surge of emotions rising within you. Marius holds your hand and presses the switch together, as if what you are activating isn't an explosive device, but rather a grand firework show. A loud explosion echoes from afar, causing the security guards who have entered the workshop to panic and rush outside.
やっぱりシンプルなやり方が一番効果的だね。
Marius helps you up and you two quickly return to the surveillance room door where the password has been successfully cracked. You go inside to search for the location of the storage room through the surveillance footage, while Marius stands guard outside the door to observe the surroundings. Faced with a wall full of screens and hundreds of images, you feel overwhelmed, not knowing where to start. You force yourself to calm down. The more you hurry, the more confusing you become. One of these images must be different from the others. These surveillance systems can filter by conditions such as coordinates, floors, and temperature. You try to operate the system to check the rooms with temperature monitoring. Found it! You breathe a sigh of relief and run toward Marius. He seems to be well prepared as he turns around and takes your hand naturally.
お姉さん、やるじゃん。
The drug storage room is located underground. The coordinates are... Marius searches for the coordinates on his phone while continuously rotating the building model. You stare at the screen, feeling dizzy from all the spinning.
じゃあ行こう。最短ルートは見つけたから。
Already?
いつも絵を描くときに 3D モデルも使ってるからね。こんなの朝飯前ってわけ。これから向かうルートから一番遠い場所の時限爆弾を起動させた。警備員はそっちに引きつけられるはずだよ。
The plan quickly moves to its next phase, and you run forward with Marius. The moment the workshop door closes behind you, you hear another loud explosion in the distance. A powerful gust of wind sweeps through, plunging the situation into utter chaos, and you instinctively look at him. He is also staring at you. The warmth in his gaze envelops your anxiety, as if you were merely embarking on a brilliant journey together. Medicine storage room. In the blink of an eye, you arrive in front of the underground door leading to the drug storage room. The narrow staircase stretches endlessly downward into the underground, where the final secret remains shrouded in darkness. Finally, an inconspicuous door appears around the corner. You and Marius quicken your pace, crack the password, and push the door open. This dim and cool room before you must be where they store the grisophenol. You take a few steps forward and soon find the refrigeration unit you had seen in the introduction video. The transparent fluid is stored inside blue glass bottles. This is it. Fortunately, most of the drugs are still here.
6番の棚だけが空っぽだ。さっき見たトラックに積まれてるだろうから、後で数を確認しよう。
You and Marius continue walking deeper into the room. At the end of the storage room is a lab bench with common lab equipment like microscope and test tubes.
この実験器具、作りが簡単すぎない？薬品研究の実験台っていうより、中学生の実験室に見える。
Indeed, maybe this room is only used as a warehouse. There is nothing worth investigating on the lab bench. You both turn your heads, your gazes falling on the computer desk by the wall. We'll have to check the computer for any clues. While the data chip is decrypting the computer password, Marius picks up the files on the desk and flips through them.
ラボの仕入れ伝票か。ビタミン、乳酸菌に生理食塩水。なんだよこれ。スポーツドリンクでも作る気か？
Maybe they're used to adjusting the drug concentration to dilute the main ingredients and prevent severe side effects from overdose.
主成分といえば。
Marius suddenly seems to realize something and looks around, which reminds you as well. And towards ingredients. Your investigation and chasing have been so intense with all the sneaking around and explosions that you almost forgot why you are looking for grisophenol. Aside from the chaos and competition caused by those merchants, there's another crucial reason why you must find the drug before anyone else. That is to prevent untoward ingredients with obvious side effects from entering the market. Once we extract the drug samples, we can analyze their components and then we'll know. While you are thinking through all the possibilities, the computer system has been cracked. In the dim room, the electronic screen emits a harsh glow. The data chip not only unlocks the password but also scans out hundreds of hidden files. Looking at file names like product component analysis and clinical trial logs, you know the answers you're seeking are hidden within these files. Marius pulls out a chair for you to sit down. He stands beside you, leans down, and opens those key files one by one.
嘘だろ。これって。
Could it be? No way! As suspected, these files indeed contain the crucial core data, but the truth hidden within is completely surprising. The main ingredients of the drug are just those ordinary nutrients listed on the purchase order, with virtually no medicinal value.
スポーツドリンク以下だな。中身を変えて特別に見せかけたまがいものだ。技術的に取り上げることがあるとしたら、低温でなくなると酸化して変色するのを利用して、珍しそうで繊細な印象を与えてることくらいか。
No wonder there are no signs of research and production here. They are just processing the ingredients into solvents. Nothing technically involved.
宣伝で歌っていた効果も、研究報告書も全部偽物。研究所のデータを改ざんしただけのものだったわけだ。
That's why this report seems plausible at first glance, but in reality, they have absolutely nothing to do with risophenol being sold. The result is absolutely mind-boggling, yet when combined with all the anomalies you discovered earlier, it somehow makes perfect sense. Who would have thought that something so alluring could be such a ridiculous lie? Its owner is gone, yet it still stirs up conflicts over interest on the island. You feel like everything is becoming unreal. You look helplessly at Marius, who is smiling but with crimson flames burning in his eyes.
まったく、とんだ茶番劇だな。
Just then, a call comes from the communication earphones, and the anger in Marius' eyes gradually fades.
ああ、わかった。現場を押さえておいてくれ。俺もすぐに向かう。
The call is from the mercenaries that were discovered while tailing the truck, so they intercepted the truck according to the plan. What was carried in the truck was the glyphosate stored in the refrigerator, and the quantity roughly matched the missing amount from cabinet number 6. The mercenaries used their appropriate instruments to test the truck components and confirmed they were just ordinary nutritional reagents. The health product that is said to preserve youth is actually just... Could the method be any simpler? It feels almost cheaply surreal because of its sheer directness. Yet, this simple lie acts like a magnet, attracting prominent figures from all over the world, making them compete desperately over it.
結局、みんな完全な詐欺だったってこと。
Marius' voice is devoid of emotion, soft as a sigh. However, the absurd reality before you is the very truth you've been chasing all along. Mr. Jin invited prominent figures from the business world. Wasn't he afraid of being discovered or retaliated?
今になって思うけど、投資家を呼び込む他に、現金を集める方法がなかったんだろうね。何しろ、銭林は莫大な資金を必要としてたから。対外的には一社だけと提携するって宣言してたけど、希少性や飢餓感を煽るためだけじゃなくて、トラブルへの対応も考えてのことだったんだろう。自分の縄張りなら、誰かと縁を切るのも簡単だろうし。
Marius doesn't say it directly, but you understand what he means.
それに、彼と組むような連中が、本気で製品の成分や効果を期待してると思う？ 商売人は自分のところの商品で十分な利益を出せればそれでいい。たとえ詐欺だと分かっていても、儲けになるなら飛びつくやつが必ずいるんだ。
You hear creeps applause from the entrance of the storage room, creating an eerie atmosphere in the dead silence of the underground space. Marius and you quickly turn toward the entrance. Both of you were so absorbed in the thought that you didn't notice the person outside the entrance.
誰だ？せっかく来たなら、こそこそ隠れてないで出てくればいい。
The half-closed door slowly creaks open and a dark shadow seeps into the cool room, too far away for you to see clearly. Strange footsteps echo through the room. In the darkness, a figure slowly approaches, his face ghastly pale in the glow of the computer screen. It is a familiar face.
懐かしい再会というには早すぎたな、明戸社長。まあ、その名前より泉圭さんの方が好みだが。
Madsen's storage room. The tension in the room escalates and Zhenhao laughs eerily as he slowly approaches you. It is the same familiar smile, but his eyes are cool, a far cry from his previously warm and easygoing self. Marius doesn't respond. He steps forward and stands in front of you, confronting Zhenhao. You slowly get up from the computer chair, take out the stun gun from your pocket under Marius' cover, and hide it behind your back.
こんなに早くここにたどり着けると思わなかったが、さてはパックスの力を借りたのか？
部屋に盗聴器を仕掛けたのが自分だと認めるのか？
今さら隠してどうする？
まあいいや。じっくり話し合おうか。
Marius nears and changes his posture, seemingly casually touching the watch on his wrist. According to the secret code you agreed on before, he is hinting at you to buy more time for the mercenary support operations. So, were you also the one who called the owner of the hidden market street?
ああ、その通りさ。闇市場の調査を始めたはいいが、まさか店主が感づいて悪知恵を働かせたのは予想外だった。しかし、あんな奴はどうだっていい。闇市場の情報を流したのも、君たちがグラスモルフェンの行方を知っているのか確かめるためだ。君たちの食いつきぶりに、俺よりも手がかりを持っていないと確信したが、やはりパックスの人間だからな。動向には注目していたよ。何かしらの成果が出れば、俺も恩恵に預かれると思った。
俺たちがいなかったら電力会社を調べようとは思いつかなかったし。
銭林は PR 動画を重要なクライアントにしか送らなかったから、俺は見ていない。君の言う通り、薬品の冷蔵保管にも電力との関連性にも気づけなかっただろ
う。Zhenhao isn't arrogant. In fact, he seems a bit thankful for your help. But even if you find the drug first, so what? There are too many eyes watching the transportation hubs of the island. You won't be able to transfer them without being noticed.
そうさ。だが、あの時は考える余裕もなかった。何しろ薬を見つけ出すことが先決だったからな。
じゃあ、これからどうするつもりだ？
Marius sounds a little confused and hesitant. Like you, he feels that Zhenhao is suspiciously cooperative.
さて、質問に答えてきたが、俺のことがドラマに出てくる改心するような悪役に見えてるのか？
As Zhenhao speaks, he walks closer to you with a smile, but you can't help feeling uncomfortable.
これは俺なりの誠意ってやつさ。
次の一手を当ててみようか。まさかパックスとの提携を狙ってるとか言わないよな。
いやはや、泉社長は聡明でいらっしゃる。パートナーになりたいだなんて大それた贅沢は言わない。俺は力になりたいんだ。
この倉庫を見つけた後で提携なんて言い出すのはさすがに遅すぎると思わないか？
人は誰しも多かれ少なかれ期待と野望を抱くもの。社長、どうか俺にも再起と挽回のチャンスをくださいよ。
Zhenhao seems a bit too nice, but from what you've said before, people like him who hide behind a friendly smile are usually the hardest to read. And Marius has clearly seen more people like this than you have.
じゃあ話し合いを続けようか。そっちの誠意は分かったけど、俺たちが断ったらどうするつもりだ？
目も当てられない結果になるんじゃないか。すべてがここで終わってしまうような。
何？俺たちを始末するって？
消えるだけさ。この島は地震があったばかりで、不慮の事故も珍しくない。
俺の正体を知ってるんだろ？パックスに目をつけられても構わないと？
Zhenhao laughs and narrows his eyes.
俺は島にはいないのだから、泉社長が消えたこととは無関係だろ。
なるほど。だからあんな時間に送別会なんてやってたわけか。
そういうことさ。パックスが調査を始めたところで、俺は他人の招待状で島に来たからな。俺の正体を知るやつなんて一人もいないわけだ。まあ、雑談はこの辺にして。どうする？泉社長。
What he said is definitely threatening. He calmly looks at you and raises his hand, preparing to take something out from the inner pocket of his coat. Hearing Zhenhao's question, Marius remains unusually calm. He looks at Zhenhao, his eyes still worried but filled with complex emotions. He remains silent for a few seconds and then sneers, seemingly to realize that Zhenhao is about to break the fragile peace.
お前が自分で選んだことだからな。
Marius' ambiguous response intimidates Zhenhao, who stops moving his hand, looks around nervously, and then looks at you too.
仮面をかぶれば何をしてもいいと考えるやつは多い。別人になりすませば誰にもバレないと思っている。
Marius sounds a little helpless and disappointed, as if the tricks in front of you are just a ridiculous entertainment.
言ってなかったけど、俺も本名の方が好きなんだ。牧野勉って縁起のいい名前じゃないか？貝原剛よりお似合いだよ。
どうしてそれを？
Marius tightly holds your hand. You know that he's ready for a counterattack.
ああ、剛兄さんは実力を隠すのが本当にうまかった。銭林が事件に巻き込まれるまで俺も疑うことすらしなかったからな。だけど薬品が消えてからは怪しい行動が目立った。特にあの送別会はいただけない。心変わりが早すぎるじゃないか。他人の招待状を高値で買ってまで取引のチャンスをつかもうとしたような人間が、グラスモルフェンなんてうまい話を手放すわけがないだろ。
俺のことを一体どこまで知ってるんだ？
Marius carefully watches Zhenhao's expression, toying with his emotions.
巧妙に隠されていたから調べるのには苦労したよ。でもこの世に生きている限り何かしらの手がかりは残る。送金記録、行動記録、話し方の癖、生活習慣、それから DNA と指紋。
Marius pauses briefly, seemingly giving Zhenhao some time to realize how things have turned around.
お前が設立した牧野製薬は資金繰りに行き詰まって倒産の危機に瀕してた。ビジネスパートナーには裏切られ、株主は撤退。島に来て銭林と手を組み、グラスモルフェンの独占販売権を手に入れるのが最後の逆転のチャンスだったんだろう。
Seeing his disguise completely exposed by Marius, Zhenhao's eyes waver for a moment, but he still tries his best to maintain composure while negotiating with you.
ほう。それで、泉社長は俺をどうするつもりだ？
言っただろ。どんな結果であれ、自分で選んだ道だって。今はまだ大した罪を犯してない。ここを離れて元の生活に戻ればやり直せる。でも、どうしても続けるつもりなら。
Marius raises his hand and taps the inconspicuous first button on his collar.
これはピンホールカメラだ。牧野さんの一挙手一投足は、ここからリアルタイムで送信されてる。怪しいと思った時に調査は済ませていた。それなりに準備はできてるよ。ファックスの監視だから、いつどこにいても見つけられる。どういうことかは、言わなくてもわかるよな。ビジネスマンなら、損得感情くらいできると思うが。
Zhenhao falls silent for a moment, his eyes still filled with reluctance as if wanting to make one last struggle.
俺たち以外にもここを見つけた奴はいる。詐欺を続けて利益を独占しようとしたって、今さら無理だってことくらいわかるだろう。今すぐ手を引いて、ここから去れ。これが、本当に最後のチャンスだ。
Zhenhao is a little dazed by these words, but soon he shakes his head helplessly and laughs at himself.
ここまでやっておいて、選択の余地なんてあるものか。
Unlike Marius, without financial support, his only trump card is a hidden identity. If his identity is exposed, he will lose all his advantages. He can't afford to take any risks, especially when it could put himself and his family in danger. At this moment, a chaotic footsteps approaches, and then mercenaries rush in to subdue Zhenhao.
連れ出すだけでいい。
The whole thing starts and ends so fast, and you're still standing there, trying to figure out what's happening. He finally relaxes and slowly lets go of your hand when you're the only ones left in the storage room.
はあ、危なかった。
Getting cold feet after the negotiation is over.
怖くないよ。お姉さんがいるし。だけど、追い詰められた人間は何をするかわからないからね。もしよからぬことを考えて暴発でもしたら？それでも切り札はあるから、あんたを危険な目には合わせないけどさ。
Other cards, what are they? Marius whispers something, but you can't hear it clearly, so you instinctively move closer to him.
内緒。
You sigh softly. Marius shrieks to tease you are always the same, but you keep falling for them.
さて、この後はこれをどう処理するか考えないと。
Marius and you look back at the blue glass bottles neatly arranged in the refrigerator, though your feelings about them have changed somewhat. To think that we'd be the ones to put an end to this grand deception. What should we do? Reveal its truth to the public? But Marius looks at you and you feel that he's on the same page as you. Who would believe such an absurd truth?
そこだよね。薬品を横領したって疑われかねないし、後々もっと面倒なことになるだろうな。
Better to stay out of the public eye regarding this matter. One slip and it could backfire. You mumble to yourself, but Mary's eye suddenly lights up.
火？じゃあここに火をつけてきれいさっぱり焼き払っちゃうってのはどう？
For a moment, you thought Marius was joking, but soon you understand what he meant. The truth about the drug, even the drug itself, isn't what really matters.
この詐欺は最初から実体のないものだったんだ。エデンの園のリンゴみたいに利益って誘惑の詰まった泡でしかない。
We don't need to explain it to anyone or break it down because it's essentially nothing, as long as it ceases to exist.
全部まとめて跡形もなく消えるだろうね。
If everyone thinks Chrysophenol is gone for good, this farce will naturally come to an end. Only then will this scarred island find true peace.
そうと決まれば、お姉さん、一緒にやっちゃおう。
Okay. You and Mary split up to search for flammable materials, and you find several boxes of printed brochures and advertising flyers in the storage room filing cabinet. Looking at the keywords like eternal youth and rejuvenation on them, you feel so ironic. Finally, all preparations are complete. Marius turns around to take one last look and then ignites the experimental data with a lighter. The absurd words fuel the dancing flames, and the searing fire spreads across the papers. Marius throws the documents behind him, the embers falling like sparks igniting like wildfire. In an instant, a sea of flames engulfs the drug storage room, gradually consuming the file stream. Your heart freezes uncontrollably with the flames, but when you look up, you see Mary's eyes are colder than ever before.
たった一つの愚かで馬鹿げた嘘に世界中の一流の商売人が食いついて争うなんて。金のためなら命も惜しまないってことかな。現実はもっと醜いけどね。
You want to say something to clear his mind, but you can't come out with the so-called logic to refute the truth he said. You quietly watch the fire behind him slowly consume everything. You can't tell if the strange feeling inside is relief or emptiness.
N2X の研究が禁止されてた理由が少し分かった気がする。
What?
そこに可能性や概念が存在するだけで人は争いを始められるんだ。後先考えず手段も選ばずに。利益が人の心にある欲望をかきたてる。そして最後には本来持っていたものまで失ってしまう。こういうの何回見ても慣れそうにないな。
Marius lowers his eyes and smiles, but that expression only reflects bitterness in your heart. The things he had experienced, the world he had seen, perhaps there are many things that you couldn't find, you couldn't and wouldn't dare to imagine. Marius. At this moment, all comfort seems to be pointless. Even though both of you just completed a plan, the joy of success is nowhere to be found. You can't change people's greed for profit, and unknown crises will always follow one after another. But even if there is only a tiny bit of courage in your heart, you are willing to share it with him right now. At least you still have me. I am Texas legal counsel after all. No matter what happens, I'll stand by your side. The moment you see that, you find it a bit childish and empty. But with your current relationship, you don't know how to express it. Marius is slightly stunned and then appears deeply satisfied, as if he had just heard a precious promise. The dancing firelight reflected in his eyes, it turns into a warm
約束
smile.
だからね、お姉さん。後悔なんてしたらダメだよ。その言葉は俺にとってすごく大切なものになったから。
His earnest response makes you feel somewhat embarrassed. But I just...
これ以上なんていらないよ。
This farce finally ends in the blazing flames. To create enough commotion, Marius even uses the last few bombs to broadcast the disappearance of Grisophenol across the entire island. It does work perfectly. The news that the drug warehouse was engulfed in flames spread quickly, and as a result, the hotel guests all check out and leave in a rush. Harbor Long Street. And you finally have a chance to relax and take a leisurely stroll along the harbor street on this sunny day. It's been much more peaceful these past few days, and life on the island is gradually returning to normal.
早くも尻尾を出した奴らもいるけどね。薬がなくなったと分かって約束してた支援金も出し渋ってるらしいよ。
However, some people still refuse to believe that Grisophenol has just vanished like that, and they continue to search for the whereabouts of the drug.
放っておいたらいいよ。ないものはないんだから。どれだけ探し回ったって手がかりは見つからない。そのうち諦めるって。それはそうと。
Marius frowns as if he is about to analyze something important, but from what you know about him, what is it?
今回の潜入作戦、結構かっこよくなかった？帰ったらアクション映画に投資してみようかな。
I knew it.
脚本も監督も主演も俺で、それから。
Marius playfully winks at you, but you deliberately ignore his teasing.
お姉さん、映画のヒロインになってみない？
He's looking at you with too much anticipation, so you can't say no right away. Instead, you turn your head, pretending to check the road conditions. It's silly.
すっごく本気だってば。
With a glance, you suddenly notice that the hidden Market Street tea restaurant, which used to only open at midnight, is actually open during the day. Oh, isn't that?
大丈夫。今は普通のお店だよ。お店の内装とか設備とか、闇取引だけの場所にしては本格的だし、何か裏があるんじゃないかって、ついでに調べたんだ。そしたら、あの店主って密輸の常習犯で、あのお店も年配の夫婦から無理やり奪い取ったものでさ。悪どい店主が国際保安官に逮捕されて、お店も本来の持ち主の元に戻ったよ。
Really? Wow, it feels like forever since we last sat down and enjoyed a good meal. Should we go try it together?
いいね。行こう。
You eagerly walk forward when suddenly a car honks beside you. Marius walks to your side, shielding you from the passing vehicle. The sunlight is perfectly warm and the sea breeze is gentle. Though it is just an ordinary morning, you feel a slight warmth rising in your heart. The storm has passed and now is another beautiful day.
ねえ、お姉さん、お姉さん、うわー！港風ってすごいね。電波も画質も。晴天って聞いたから出かけたけど、なるほどな。死亡、地元、プラン。でも、ねえ、お姉さん、お姉さん、うわー！港風ってすごいね。電波も画質も下がっちゃった。晴天って聞いたから出かけたけど、なるほどな。道理で雲一つないわけだ。何しに来たって？本当は内緒だったけど、まあいいか。教えてあげるね。この島に2人の名義でさ、お店を建てようと思ってるんだ。いろんな経験もしたし、せっかくの機会だから特別なお土産を残したいじゃん。 お店の経営は島の原住民に任せられるし、観光業の発展にもつながるだろうし。悪くない考えじゃない？何箇所か下見しておくから、候補地が絞れたら一緒に見に行こうよ。ちょっと疲れてたけど、あんたの声聞いたら元気出た。絞る条件？広さや場所ならある程度は考えたけど、そこで何をするかによるかな。地元の特色を生かしたケーキ店、アクセサリーショップ、それとも珍しい小物のある雑貨店とかもいいかな。なんだかお姉さんと一緒にできるなら全部楽しそうだね。プランが固まったら一緒にお店の設計図を書きたいな。名前を決めるのはその後。まだ他にも色々あるんだけど、もう少しまとまったらお姉さんに話すよ。でもさ、やっぱり手伝ってくれない？一人で走り回るのは寂しくてさ。やった！迎えに行くから待ってて。いろいろひらめきそう。じゃあまたね。